Hi guys, today I am going to lead you through what's called a tensegrity practice. This is essentially a series of oscillating movements that gets into the fascia system and hopefully works through some of those sticky spots that we might have within our body. So for this practice, you might find it helpful to have a blanket or something that can provide a little bit of height underneath the hips at different points throughout. And that can be a pillow, it could be a bolster, meditation cushion, a block. I like the blanket because it gives a little bit of height and it's adjustable if I want to make it higher or lower. So up to you. You can do this without this. It just might feel a little more supportive at certain moments. To get started, we can go ahead and place the blanket beneath the hips and lie down on our backs. The feet can be planted, knees might knock in, the hands might rest on the abdomen or down on the floor. And in these first few moments, we can just become aware of our surroundings, maybe noticing what we see around us, what we see in our periphery. Maybe noticing any sounds. And if you'd like, we can turn the awareness to the breath. On the next naturally occurring inhale, draw the breath inward, filling up through the abdomen, all the way down from the belly into the lungs, into the chest, and even the throat space. And then on an exhale, we can let all of that go. And as we continue this deep breath, we can picture in the mind's eye a balloon inflating, noticing how when we breathe in deeply, there's that expansion front to back, side to side, top to bottom. And when we exhale from every one of those directions, there's an even drawing inward. We can refer to this as the radiant breath if you'd like. And this is a place we can always return to. If at any point throughout this practice, you choose to stop the movements that I guide us through, that's totally fine. And this can be a nice place to come back to in those moments. Feeling this full body inhale, full body exhale. And if it feels okay to do so, we might bring the hands together in front of the chest and then begin to lift the feet up. And you might wiggle a little side to side, finding some nice balance of the sacrum on the mat or on the prop. And from here, we're going to reach the knees away and then toward you. The knees might be touching as you do this, or they might be close to one another. And it might feel really nice to stay right here, focusing on this movement in the hips. But if you would like to add in the arms, we'll keep the hands close to the knees, and then as the knees go away, the hands go away. So it's almost like that opening motion of a sun salutation. Extending the arms up, straightening through the legs. And this movement can be as fast or as slow, as big or as small as you would like it to be. And as we're here, we might draw our attention to the 3 convex curves on the backside of the body. There's the bowl of the pelvis. There's that roundness of the shoulders and upper ribs. And then there's the backside of the head. And we might become curious of creating a little bit of extra weight in those places, feeling a little bit of heaviness in those places. Maybe noticing how when we do that, these motions become a little more isolated into the arms and the legs. The spine isn't really a part of that movement. And this might feel really nice. You might choose to stop the motion and find a place of rest. Or you might choose to straighten out the legs a little bit more. Maybe bending as they come near, straightening a bit more as they go further. And there's probably a little bit of tension on the front side of the body if you're straightening out the legs or reaching the knees further away as the abdomen recruits to support the shape. And that might feel productive for you right now, or it might not. It might feel unnecessary. And so you might make the motion a little bit smaller to decrease that tension. Wherever you are, you can continue for 3, 2, and 1. We can let the feet come back down to the mat, let the arms rest. Maybe take a couple of those big radiant breaths. And this might be an opportunity to find stillness, or it might be an opportunity to set up for the next series of motions. For this next one, I like to remove the prop underneath me, but you might choose to keep it, you might not, totally up to you. And we can draw the knees in, maybe grabbing the far sides of the knees with the hands. Maybe you use a prop like a strap or a long sleeve shirt, something like that, to draw the knees in. And we can begin to trace some circles with the knees, going one direction, and then going the other direction. When we feel fairly balanced out on that, we can keep one leg. I'll cue the left leg to be kept in and extend the right leg up any amount. From here, we can begin to lower the right leg. And it can lower as much or as little as we'd like it to. It can be as straight or as bent as we'd like it to be. And sometimes we don't necessarily know what our body wants. And so this is an opportunity to explore, to try a few things out and just to observe. Does one feel better than the other? And as you're doing these lifts and lowers, again, maybe moving quickly, maybe moving slowly, I invite you to notice those 3 convex curves: pelvis, shoulders, head. And begin to think of them becoming very heavy on the mat. And maybe that changes this movement a little bit for you. And you might continue this for 3, 2, 1. We can bring that right knee back into the chest. Again, it might feel nice to take some circles up the legs. Maybe this time there's a little bit of a noticeable difference between the left and right hip. You might notice it on the front side of the hip. And as you feel ready, we can hold the right knee in and extend the left leg up any amount. And then again, begin to explore those lifts and lowers, maybe taking some time to notice with leg bent versus straight. And this side might be different. And that's okay, that's very normal. If our bodies were perfectly balanced, we'd do the same thing on both sides every time. But as it is, it's good to just meet ourselves where we're at. And that might mean doing something a little bit different on this side. Again, notice those convex curves on the back side of the body. Notice how if you allow for some heaviness in those curved areas, you might isolate this movement a little more into that left leg, that left hip. And we might continue this for 3, 2, 1. Let's draw the left knee in. From here, it may again feel nice to bring the prop beneath the hips, or maybe you're liking not having a prop beneath you, that's great too. This one will be a little more symmetrical. So we can start with the arms out at a T, and we can think of the knees being furthest from us right through the middle, and then they come up nearer toward the left armpit, and then away through the middle, and then near toward the right armpit, away through the middle. So the knees are drawing this kind of half circle. I like to think of it as a little smiley face. The knees are drawing. And again, we can make this motion as fast or slow, as big or small as feels supported by the body right now. And there's an option to keep the arms out to the sides that might feel really nice. Or there's an option to add in some arm movement. If you'd like to add in the arms, we'll reach up as though we're holding a big beach ball or hugging a tree, something like that. And we'll oscillate the opposite direction. So as the knees come toward the right armpit, the arms move over to the left and vice versa. And again, you might adjust the pace of this however feels best to you. We can draw awareness back to those convex curves on the backside of the body. What happens when we weight them doing this motion? There's also an option here to add in movement through the head. Some people find that quite profound. It's a very nice effect for some people. Some people aren't that into it. So opportunity to explore here. You might move the head the same direction as the knees. So looking to the right when the knees are drawn toward the right, and to the left when the knees are drawn left. A little bit of right brain, left brain work here, moving parts of the body in different directions. So if you get off, that's okay. Just start again, maybe starting with just the legs and then adding the arms, and then adding the head, if you please. And a final option here is to maybe experiment with the legs. Maybe you straighten them out a little bit as the knees draw near to the body. Some people really enjoy keeping the legs fairly straight the entire time, adding to that tension on the front side of the body. Wherever you are, we can continue for 3, 2, and 1. Let's go ahead and return the feet to the mat, bring the arms out to the sides. Again, option to keep the support beneath the pelvis or to remove it. And it can be an exploration. It's always okay to make a decision and then to change your mind as we start into a movement. For this next one, we'll again bring the legs up. The arms can be out by the sides at a T. And we can straighten the legs just a little bit more overhead, not necessarily needing to fully straighten them. Notice those curves on the backside of the body before we even start moving. Think of weighting through those areas of the pelvis, the shoulders, and the head. And then from here, we'll start scissoring the legs. And you might notice that bending them a bit more feels more supported. The scissoring can be a pretty small movement, or it can be a really large one where the lowered leg reaches toward the mat and the upper leg reaches really in toward the body. It can be fast, it can be slow. There's a chance that you're hearing some noise here through the hips or the knees. And that's totally normal. It's kind of the body's chance to talk through the day or the month or the year, whatever it might be. And you have a choice there. There's an option to try to befriend that noise, maybe just becoming curious about it. There's also an option to make little adjustments that maybe eliminate that noise, noticing how you can affect the noise of the body through your range of motion. And if you'd like to add in the arms, one option would be to bring the fingertips up overhead, drawing the elbows toward each other. That might feel very supported in your body. Another option would be to move the arms opposite of the legs. So it's almost like a cross-country skiing movement where we'd have left arm reaching forward as the right leg reaches forward, right hand back as the left leg is back, and then just continue the scissoring motion with both arms and legs. And again, maybe just explore here a little bit, noticing how if you bend the appendages, that affects this. How if you make the motion bigger or smaller, how that affects it. Bringing awareness to those curves on the backside of the body. Noticing how that affects it. You might choose to leave this movement at any time, as with any of these movements throughout this practice. Maybe you link the movement to the breath. Maybe you don't. Wherever you are, you might stay there for 3, 2, and 1. We can return the feet to the mat, reach the arms out to the sides. Maybe take 1 or 2 of those radiant breaths. And from here, we're going to roll onto the right side of the body. As you roll to the right, your right elbow might come to the mat and your hand can cradle the head. Sometimes that feels very nice. Other times it might feel nice to straighten out the right arm and lay the right ear on that arm. Another option would be to have a pillow that you can put underneath your head here. That's totally a great option as well. We can step the left toes behind us and reach them up high behind you. Once they grip into the mat, think of pushing that knee away and almost tucking the tail at the same time. So it's almost knee goes away, hips drive forward, and you might feel a little bit of opening through the front side of that left hip. After doing some work with that part of the hip, it might feel nice to be here for a moment. We can replant the left foot so it feels a little more secure, focusing less on the stretch and more on just using that foot as a sort of kickstand. This next motion is going to primarily happen in the right leg. And we can straighten the leg or keep it bent, but we'll think of lifting the inside of that knee in the direction of the left armpit. It's not going to come anywhere close. It's just, if we thought of a line of direction, that's where we're headed. And sometimes we have to make little adjustments here, maybe leaning back a little bit more, using that left foot a little bit more to support this movement. And with this movement, this time we'll think of the entire right side of the body and the left foot, anything contacting the mat. Let that become heavy. Option to stay with the leg or to add in the arm. And what would happen is that when the leg is lowered, the arm's going to open behind us and then they'll cross toward each other and away, toward each other and away. And again, this movement can be as big or as little, as fast or as slow, as feels supported in your body. And we might continue for 3, 2, and 1. Let's lower the right leg down, lower the left knee on top of it, and let's bring the right arm out ahead of us at a 90 degree to the body. The left hand can land atop the right palm, but we'll reach past the right fingertips. From here, we'll begin to trace a circle on the floor. So going up over the head, the hand will have to flip over. So the back of the knuckles touches the mat behind us. And then we'll come up over the thighs and back down to the floor. Tracing this nice big circle, trying to keep the fingers in contact with the mat as much as possible. And there might be a place that feels good to hang out for a moment, some stickiness somewhere that feels good to work through. Wherever you are, I'd invite you to switch the attention from keeping the hands in contact with the mat and instead to keeping the right side heavy. So you might notice that the hand hovers over the surface of the mat in some places. When we switch the attention to keeping the torso out of this movement, isolating it into the shoulder. And we can think of narrowing the diameter of the circle so that the hand starts to get a little bit higher and higher, spiraling upward as these circles shrink. You can picture drawing a circle on the ceiling and you're drawing smaller and smaller and smaller circles until the arm is directly above that shoulder. From here, it might feel nice to soften through the major muscle groups and try to actually picture the head of the upper arm, almost like a mortar and pestle, just massaging out the tissues surrounding that shoulder girdle, that part of the shoulder girdle. Some people like to have a long arm here. Some people like to bring their fingertips to the head of the arm and work with the shorter lever. We might continue this for 3, 2, and 1. From here, let's open the left arm out to the left. Take a moment in a supine twist. And then return to the back side of the body. We're going to roll to the left side. You might simply flip over. I'm going to rearrange so that I'm still facing the camera. And we'll start by maybe cupping the head in the left hand or letting the head lay on the left arm, maybe on a pillow. The right fingertips can be in front of us and we can step the right toes behind us up as high as we can, where we can then press the right knee away, give a little bit of energy of the hips moving forward, and allow for that stretching sensation. Gently release out of that, allowing the foot to more solidly plant on the mat behind you. And from here, we'll move into that leg motion. So thinking this time of left inner knee coming toward the right armpit. And again, that leg can be as straight or as bent as you would like for it to be. Might help to roll back just a little bit, getting a little more stability here. And then picture the entire left side of the body growing very heavy, really isolating this movement into that left hip. And if you added the arm on the other side, you might wish to do so again on this side. We would open the arm as the leg goes toward the mat and then crisscross toward each other as the arms comes forward and the left leg lifts. Again, notice if that left side of the body can still remain heavy. If there needs to be any adjustments to the movement, maybe making it a little bit smaller, a little bit faster or slower to find that stability. And we might continue this for 3, 2, and 1. Let's lower the left leg down. This time we'll bring the left arm out to a 90-degree to the shoulder. The right hand can come palm face down on it, and then reach past the fingertips. From here, we can start that circle, prioritizing at first the proximity of the fingers to the mat. And since we've done it on the other side now, you might notice just how much the rest of the body moves to accommodate this movement and keeping the fingers close. Again, you have an opportunity here to notice the noises of the body. And we can begin to turn our awareness to keeping the left side of the body very heavy here. Noting how that impacts the movement, maybe keeps the hand a little bit higher up for the majority of the movement as it isolates into that shoulder. And we can continue to shrink these circles. Again, I like to think of drawing a circle on the ceiling and allowing that circle to become smaller and smaller until eventually we have the arm directly above the shoulder. And from there, we can use that mortar and pestle style movement to massage out the tissue surrounding the shoulder. Arm might be straightened, or you might bring your fingers to the head of the arm, shortening the lever. We might continue for 3, 2, and 1. Open the right arm over to your right, allowing for a moment in a supine twist. And then you can roll back onto the back side of your body. For this next one, we'll keep the feet planted beneath the knees. We can bring the arms out to the sides. It might feel nice to hold thumb against index finger. That'll give us a little bit of an extra guidance here shortly. But pressing into the feet, we can hover the hips up off of the mat. And if you're familiar with bridge pose, you might know that often we really press into the feet and lift the hips high. Here, we're not worried so much about height. We're thinking of tucking the tail, creating some length in the low back. And that probably means the hips being a little bit lower than your maximum lift. You can evenly weight through all 4 corners of each foot. Keep reaching that tailbone forward. And then we'll add in the arms. So we can lift the arms, unifying those 2 circles of thumb and index finger, and then lower out to the sides. Lift and lower. And again, this might be fast, it might be slow. You might have 1 breath per movement, or you might have many breaths per 1 movement, or many movements per 1 breath. Option to stay right here. Of course, you can always lower the hips and just focus on the arm movement here. That might feel more supported in your body right now. Or there's one more option to bring the backs of the palms toward the mat and then bring the circles together. Backs of the palms to the mat, circles together. So maybe finding a little bit of external rotation in the arms as we lower the hands to our sides. You might continue this for 3, 2, and 1. Lower the hips back onto the mat. Take a moment to just breathe. For this next one, it may feel good to have the prop beneath the hips. We'll lift the legs up and we're going to open the legs out to the sides. So legs can be straight and out to the sides. Knees can be quite bent and legs can be opened out to the sides. Or we can even keep the knees in or the feet planted. So set up for yourself in whatever way is of most interest to you, knowing that your interest might change, and that's fine. We'll keep that circle of thumb and index finger toward one another. But this time we'll move one hand at a time. So we'll bring the right hand up over the face, and then the left hand can come up, and we'll lower the right. Right lifts, left lowers. Left lifts, right lowers. So I like to picture those desk ornaments that were so popular in like the 90s, where you have those little metal balls and you move the outer one and it knocks in and transfers energy, and then the furthest one moves out. A little bit of that movement here. And it can be interesting to follow the movement with a rolling of the head. So the hand that lowers, we can follow it by rolling the head, and then it comes back up and we follow the other hand. We can again become very heavy through those curves on the back side of the body. Noticing how that affects this motion. We might continue for 3, 2, and 1. Let's bring the legs back down, plant the feet. The hands can stay thumb and index finger touching. We're just going to change the range of motion for the arms. So we'll bring the arms up overhead, unifying those circles. And then as we come back down toward the pelvis, we'll rotate so that the pinky fingers come close to each other or even touch. And then back up overhead, it's like the backs of the hands touch. Back down toward the pelvis, pinky fingers go toward each other. So you can picture if you were holding pencils in each of your hand, you might be drawing a sort of oval shape here. We're just getting some internal and some external rotation in the upper arms. This is an opportunity here. The eyes might remain open. Maybe you become aware of your peripheral vision. What can you see? The eyes might also close. That might feel really nice here. You may continue this for 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and release back down to the mat. Our final movement that we'll do today, if it is of interest to you, will be to come up to hands and knees. And this might be a great place to have the prop beneath the knees for some added support. Or you might prefer to have the prop out of your way. Totally up to you. We'll come to hands and knees and we'll send the hips back a little bit, almost toward what's known as a child's form, and then forward. Just allowing for a little bit of movement here. And the hands can begin to crawl a little bit more forward of the shoulders. And we'll start to escalate this option to stay here. Or we have an option to rock forward and pull the heart through, coming into a cobra form. So the elbows are bent. We're pressing into the tops of the feet and into the pelvis, supporting the low back. The shoulders are away from the ears and the elbows are touching with the ribs. And then to get out of it, we lower back down toward the mat, press up to that hands and knees, and then rock the hips back. Forward, finding that back bend. And back, finding that compression shape. This can be very quick, this can be very slow. You might find a place that feels good to stay for a while, and so you might set up there for a moment. You might continue wherever you are for 3, 2, and 1. From here, you might choose to close this practice in a seated shape or else lying on your back, maybe in a child's form, rocking the hips back, reaching the hands forward. I invite you to return attention to that radiant breath, that expansion like a balloon within the abdomen as we breathe in, and that even contraction as we breathe out. It's very normal at the end or even throughout a practice like this to feel in sort of that half waking state. Typically, that's a sign that you've moved into your parasympathetic nervous system, having this central vagal response that maybe feels restful. And so it can be a place you might wish to stay for a while. And as you do prepare to transition into whatever the rest of your day might hold, I'd invite you to set any sort of intention for that transition. Thank you so much for joining in with this class today. I hope that you found some nourishment in these moments that you spent honoring yourself and your needs.